so many. There's weaning, there's transitioning to sippy cups, there's unsettled babies that lots of wind pain after settling, there's overwhelming letdown reflexes, there's sore and damaged nipples, there's nipple thrush, cystitis, building up supply and supporting mums, and then making sure babies are, some of them have a lower gain than others. And so just making sure that we're making good progress there. Yeah, so many topics to cover.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motherhood Made Magic podcast. Today I'm speaking with Emma Maher. Emma is an international board certified lactation consultant, a midwife and a mum. She and I live in Newcastle and we run our workshops preparing parents for their life with a baby from the same wonderful place at Hamilton, Yum Mum Tum. And I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today because she's a wealth of knowledge, but she's also one of the smiliest, most enthusiastic about their profession people that I've ever met. So welcome, Emma.
Thanks, Anna. I was so excited to jump in there. Thank you for having me on your podcast. It's such an honour, really, and I'm excited. Any opportunity to do work with you is always exciting too.
Maybe I'll get you to start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing the work that you are doing.
Yeah, wow. Seems like a lifetime ago when I start back at the beginning, but I kind of got into nursing many years ago with just a desire to help people, but I always had a passion in my heart for midwifery. So I never gave up on my dreams. It wasn't easy to always get there, but you keep going when you want something and you find that determination. So I continued and I love working with women. I really fell in love with the profession of midwifery, working with women specifically in the birthing environment. And then I guess just over the whole role of being a midwife too, you're supporting women in breastfeeding. And I'm within the hospital setting, that's just the initial kind of breastfeeding, the first latch and those first few days. But I don't know, I just kind of got another bit of fire in my belly and really saw that there was such a lack of support and real kind of truth, honest information out there for women and education. And I just thought, this is ridiculous that there's just such a missing gap in the service for families. And, we're just in such a stressed out society that women, families are really struggling over it. And I don't feel like we always have to be when we have a good support network around us.
Because we're really told that, or we have this impression that it's going to be the most natural thing in the world. And it's not going to be that way unless you've been around it your whole life and it's part of the culture and all of those things. And even then there still might be difficulties.
Absolutely there is. And so I guess it's breaking down all those myths along the way too that we take on from our mums and grandmas and aunties and all those, like friends as well. Everyone loves to share those trauma stories, which is another podcast. We won't go there. But, we have to break them down and then we have to build each other up again. And it's not always natural. Like, it's designed naturally and biologically, that's great. But it doesn't just happen, And I suppose a lot of the effort's put on birth, which is lovely and it needs that. But then we suddenly have this baby in our arms and we're like, oh, well, what now? And we've done not much prep work to get there.
Yeah, I think, is it statistically that 96% of mothers want to or intend to breastfeed, but by the time they're discharged from hospital, it's only around like 82%, and then it drops off and keeps on dropping off.
Hugely.
Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Hugely. Yeah. And again, by 2 months and again by 4 months, especially. So before the 6-month mark, huge decline in breastfeeding rates. And I guess that from someone working within the system too, I know that we do let women down. And so that just kind of made me go, well, hey, I'm just going to go and do this for me and for all the women out there who deserve information and deserve to be supported in a holistic environment and be respected and, for who they are and for the choices that they make as well. So, yeah, I guess that's where it got me. Yeah.
What is the course of training for an IBCLC, which is the acronym for an International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, and how is that different compared to some of the other people that we might get breastfeeding advice from?
Yeah, look, There is other courses where you can do breastfeeding management, and they're all wonderful courses, but the IBCLC, which is quite a mouthful, I know, it is, like the acronym says, it's international board certified. So this is something where you have to do 90 hours of specific breastfeeding education, so a course that you do, and then you also need to prove that you've done 1,000 hours of breastfeeding work in the past 5 years, and then you must go and pass a 4-hour international exam. And that's to certify me for 5 years. So then every 5 years, there's different methods of recertifying. So we're always up to date. It's very strict. And so, it's there to make sure that we are giving the right care as well. So we are feeding specialists indeed. And it's not just some random person making up breastfeeding information. There's lots of work that goes into
or coming to push the baby's head against your breast for the first feed or anything like that.
No, yeah. So lots of work to get here. And I would, there's actually, it's quite a bit deceiving sometimes in the community, because people have told me, oh, I saw a lactation consultant, but sometimes it's not a lactation consultant, but that's what it's perceived to be as. So, and even unless you've gone down this path, there's just so much knowledge to know. And even then we just learn more and more and more. Yeah, it's mind-boggling. It's not just breastfeeding. There's so much depth to that.
Yeah. I remember when I was working in allied health, I worked at different doctors' clinics, and I learned that if a GP has an interest in skin cancer, they can call themselves a skin cancer specialist because it's not a protected title.
Wow.
And it's kind of the same that because lactation consultant isn't a set-aside protected title, kind of anyone with an interest area could call themselves that, but not everybody can call themselves an IBCLC.
Exactly. Yeah. And so and lots of people go, what? Like IBC, what? Like you lost me right back at the I. But it is, it's a name that carries that weight and that professional education with it. Absolutely.
How did you manage to do this when you have 2 pretty little ones? You did your qualification even while you were pregnant and feeding the second one? Is that right?
Yep. I just thought, crazy, aren't we? My rationalization was that, well, let's do it while the kids are little and they won't remember it, that I'm not, like we have those feelings of not being able to give them that time, I guess, So I thought, well, let's just do it. I don't want to be studying all the time. I've done nursing and my child and family health, my midwifery, and I was like, okay, this is it for a while. So I started studying when I was pregnant with my second. And of course, I'd been working in roles supporting women with breastfeeding. And then I had a break for about 3 months when I had her, and she was born in September. And so then in the April the following year, I sat the international exam, went to Sydney, and so it was a big job, and it required support from my family to do that, because it's not just something I could just make up. Like there was obviously study that went into that. And then at the end of that year, I launched my business.
Yeah, full on. Go you. There's never a good time, is there? So we might as well get in.
Yeah, that's right.
What does a working week look like for you? What kind of things do you do in your business? What kind of conditions or situations are you helping women through? What's it like?
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit different. Hey, like the weeks do get a little bit different, and I'll get quiet weeks and busy weeks. There is a little bit of increased client load at the moment. I think there's a little bit of a baby boom going on, thanks to all the lockdowns last year. So things are busy. I work and I usually cram a day or two with lots of home visits. So all my services, apart from my antenatal classes or even the private ones, they're all home visits. So I'm not within a clinic setting. I come to you as the woman and see you in your home, which I think is just the way it should be, and it gives me a good picture as to what else is happening and what support is like for that woman also. So in that day, I'm seeing women anywhere from, having babies that are 5 days old to 5 months old, even 12 months old. So there's such a varied, response for needing support, I guess, too. It's not just my nipples are sore because I can't latch my baby. There's so many, there's weaning, there's transitioning to sippy cups, there's unsettled babies that lots of wind pain after settling, there's overwhelming letdown reflexes, there's sore and damaged nipples, there's nipple thrush, cystitis, building up supply and supporting mums, and then making sure babies are, some of them have a lower gain than others. And so just making sure that we're making good progress there. Yeah, so many topics to cover.
Yeah, it's a huge variety. And I think that's what makes you as a community provider quite special and specialized compared to those who spend their working time seeing those babies in the hospital that are only up to like 3 or 5 days old. And I think your assistance in special situations, like there is a problem with babies' latch, tongue,
absolutely,
bottle preference, having spent time in NICU, any of those things, just having your direction and reassurance is so valuable. And I remember I didn't have the appointment with you, but it was actually your mentor, Lynette Huckstad, who came to me when my baby was around about 3 months old, and I ended up with a great case of oversupply, and everyone always that I had heard of before had issues with undersupply, and I instead was having this oversupply, and she was choking, and I was trying to cut out this food and this food that could have been like causing her all this wind pain, and her poos were all green and horrible. It was just a matter of positioning and a couple of techniques that she could show me, and within a couple of days there was a difference, and by 2 or 3 weeks post, everything was normal and wonderful. And I just think that the work that you do, it's like you're the guardian angel secret weapon for women, but they don't know that you're actually there and exist because the services aren't promoted.
No, we're not. Yeah. And I guess within that too, when you go through the hospital system to have your babies, there's no advertisement of lactation consultants out there in the community. So it's a very...
Because they're not allowed to, are they?
No. And so...
They're not allowed to refer to private providers outside the system. But then beyond that early time, there's not really anybody that knows how to help you.
No, that's right. And you might be waiting a couple of weeks until the child and family health team are able to come and see you for a home visit. And again, your GP has limited time or knowledge, especially in breastfeeding. And like anybody, you have to have that passion to know, to want to learn and to learn about it and provide that support. So yeah, there's very limited support really out there unless you really go digging for it. Yeah.
And where do we dig? Where do we find somebody with the skills like yours?
Yeah, well, actually, you can search on the LCAN. So that's the Lactation Consultants of Australia and New Zealand, the LCAN's website. So you can actually put your postcode in and search, and it will come up with all the lactation consultants in your area as well. So that's a really good way of checking out who's around. And then most people have, websites or Facebook pages or Instagram pages and things like that these days where you can link in with people as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll put that link to the LCAN's directory in the show notes of this episode, but it's just lcanz.org. Unfortunately, lactation consultants, IBCLCs, aren't covered through public or through private health funds at the moment, are they?
Yeah, very limited private health funds too. So it's a really strange world in that some will cover and some won't cover. And I guess it depends on what type of cover and who you're with and all that. And it breaks my heart that not, like breastfeeding, it is literally having really, working towards that healthy mum and healthy baby. And the cost on society when you look at that is reduced, as in, because we're having less health complications statistically. So it breaks my heart that we're here trying to look after me as a mum, look after my baby and, all that. And we're making a proactive choice, yet we're struggling and we might go, hey, I just need a bit of help. And yet then we are not able to be financially supported. That's another gap. Yeah, it's sad that we have to pay for that, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. And for those who finances are a barrier, the Australian Breastfeeding Association has a 24-hour helpline where you can speak with trained breastfeeding counsellors. Obviously a little bit different over the phone compared to a home visit with someone like Emma, but it is a valuable resource that you can access anytime at no cost.
The ABA are a wonderful service, and you know that when you dial the phone, someone's going to pick up who's going to have you back, which straight away is a good feeling to know that they're going to support what you're doing and help to give you some strategies. And if finances are a real barrier, then always ask for payment plans and things like that, because all of the IBCLCs I know, we're in it because we love supporting people. And so don't let that be the one barrier that stops you seeking support. Yeah.
When I was having my baby, Emma, I went along to breastfeeding education class and my husband came too. And when I spoke with him after we got through that newborn onslaught, I asked him what the best things that we did to prepare for our baby were. And he said the fact that our deep freeze was full of food and that we went to breastfeeding class, because he knew what to expect and he knew how to help me. So what is it that you want your expecting mums, new mums to know for them? And what's a key something that you want their partners to know as well?
Okay. I would love, like, all women to be able to get to breastfeeding classes. Prevention is better than a cure. That's that great saying that I love. And it's the same with breastfeeding too. So if we can empower you with the information and education beforehand, then you're already 2 steps ahead to know exactly, like your partner said, he kind of understood what was about to happen. And so you know what you're stepping into and you can prepare yourself for that and have realistic expectations and not just some stuff that you read online, some waffly little cloud of, oh, it's going to be lovely, and it's not always lovely. Do you know, like, we need real information. So I would love for everyone to come to classes. I think it's very important. And I get a little bit sad when people, we don't know what we don't know, so some people, they don't put that value on coming along. But I know that everyone who leaves feeling so confident with a big smile on their face, just saying how wonderful it was, because they just had no idea about any of this breastfeeding stuff. That's just more than breastfeeding, because it's all intertwined together. As for partners, I would just really, really encourage you guys to know too that there's so much more than breastfeeding, just breastfeeding. I say just breastfeeding as in we put so much focus on breastfeeding, and that's what it is for the first 2 months. It's a lot of breastfeeding, and that's normal. And there's just so many other ways to support your partner and to bond together as a family and with a baby, skin to skin with dads and partners, showering, going for walks, doing some tummy time and some playtime on the mat. There's so many other hands-on jobs that dads can do. So don't feel like breastfeeding takes away that bonding experience. Yeah, I guess that's the biggest one for dads that I have to mention.
Yeah, you don't need to give, don't need to be giving a bottle to your baby to bond with them.
Yeah.
I read recently that people who have a partner who is educated and supportive in breastfeeding are 11 times more likely to reach their breastfeeding goals. So if you can manage to get them to come along, I think they'll get their eyes really widened to,
and it's good to get them to come along, because they hear the information differently than what you will, and they remember different things, so just having them there is good. And they're your number one support. That's who they're with you for the birth, they're with you at home. And yes, family and friends come and go, but your partner is your one steadfast support. And so having you guys together, strengthened as a team, that's like number one. Yeah, that's quality there. Yeah.
Partner or a support person, someone in your inner circle to come along with you and to learn this stuff is really vital. Thank you so much for today, Emma. I would love to know where we can find you, because I know you have an online presence as well as
yes, I do. My website is empoweredlactationwithemma.com.au. So that's an easy one to find me there, and you'll find all my information with events, and there's a free ebook can grab on and check that out. And then also on Instagram. So I'm not on Facebook, but I do have an Instagram page, and that's Empowered Lactation with the _ with Emma. And so, you can find me there. I do have busier weeks and quieter weeks because everyone has a family, don't we? And life goes on, but I'm definitely there and definitely ready to read emails or reach out to me however you need. That is perfectly fine.
Thank you for sharing your little nuggets of wisdom there. We've run sessions before that have gone for like over 2 hours, so I'm so grateful that you've been able to to get your message across in a shorter chunk of time. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Anna. Bye.
I hope you loved listening to this episode as much as I loved recording it. If you want to find out more about what I do, you can head to my website, www.annacusack.com.au. Find my book, Mama, You're Not Broken, Unmasking the Unspoken Emotions of Modern Motherhood on Amazon. Find me on Facebook at Anna Cusack, Complete Mama Support, or follow me on Instagram at annacusack postpartum. Please remember to hit subscribe on this podcast and give it a 5-star rating if you feel called. See you next time.